Phillies have the day off today. They'll start a 3-game set, all 3 afternoon tilts in Chicago. 220, 220, 220, whatever it takes.
221, whatever it takes. Very good.
So 3 afternoon tilts down there at Wrigley Field in Chicago as the Phillies salvage 1 game in the 3-game set in Detroit. Frank Klose from 97.3 ESPN.com will join us to take a look at the team moving forward here. As Frank, they got that last game in the Detroit series, which was good to see. They didn't get swept out there, but now, we're really going to see what they're made of. But, you got a little glimpse. They went toe-to-toe with the Tigers, and now with this Cubs team, who are very good, and it'll be interesting to see if how they stack up against this Cubs team. Will this weekend, this Friday, Saturday, Sunday series starting tomorrow, give us a better indication after what we saw in Detroit? Will after this weekend, as we get into post-Memorial Day, will that give you, Frank, a better indication on just who these Phillies are?
Well, one thing that works for the Phillies' advantage is that they're missing Jake Arrieta and they're missing Jason Hamill, both of whom have been absolutely dominant this season so far. And I was talking to a Cubs fan the other day, and he was saying that the Cubs offense seems to have hit a little bit of a wall. So it's lining up pretty well for the Phillies to have a shot here. So you'd rather see them face Jake Arrieta, rather see them face Jason Hamill if you're really trying to get a sense of the long-term picture. But I think the Phillies like the situation that they're going into in Chicago, and they hope to make a statement.
Yeah, and they're going to go in there with a big offensive output yesterday. They scored 8 runs. I saw a stat the other day, Frank. They've only scored 5 or more runs 5 times all year. I think about that. They've scored 5 or more runs 5 times all season, and they did so yesterday with an 8-5 win. But I guess it kind of, again, accentuates the problems that this team has on offense.
Yeah, so far they really haven't. It hasn't even been feast or famine. It's just been famine or not so bad famine. So it was nice to see them put up a good offensive production, especially against a team like the Tigers, who always will on their end. I mean, that was the problem the Phillies saw this weekend with the Detroit Tigers, is that when the teams are really, really, really talented offensively, and even if the pitching holds them down to a certain extent, they're not going to be able to overcome those deficits when the other team is going to put 4 or 5 runs out every night.
Yeah, and you see them basically pulling out all the stops to try to score runs. They did a double steal the other night with the steal at home. It was like a Little League game.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. If you recognize your faults, they're not going to be a team that has a lot of power, that's really going to drive the ball. So you really need to do what you can to get those base runners home when you have them. So I like that the Phillies took the chance of the double steal. Now, they kind of caught the Tigers catcher snoozing a little bit there. Didn't realize Blanco was running, but really that's what you got to do. If you're not a team that drives the ball, if you're not a team that scores a lot of runs, you really need to make them yourself. And I think that's one thing that the Phillies have been pretty good at. We've seen it before with the squeeze bunts and other things of the sort, that they're doing what they can with what they have. But, of course, it's not going to be enough when you're facing a strong offensive team.
Frank Klose is with us. Frank, the other day I was talking about on the air about a possible change in the lineup, and you had said that was your idea as well. Sorry, I didn't see that you had the same, but we were on the same wavelength there. What do you think about maybe moving Goodell up in the lineup?
Yeah, I would definitely move Tyler Goodell to the 2-hole at this point. I think it's been evident that he's been coming on a lot better. He's been making a lot of contact. He's getting his hits. So when you have such a high on-base percentage guy like Odubel Herrera at the top, you really want the people behind him to at least make some contact and not strike out. The strikeouts behind a nice leadoff hitter like Herrera, that's what really kills you, because if he gets on base, he's getting on base well over 40% of the time, and he can steal second base. That can put him into scoring position, and sometimes even if you make contact and it's an out, you get Herrera to third, and there's only 1 out, and then Michael Franco can just hit a fly ball, and guess what? You have a run. So I really do believe too you want to stack your best hitters. It doesn't really make sense to me to spread them out throughout the lineup. I'd rather see the Phillies go Herrera, Goodell, Franco, Joseph, and then Cameron Rupp all in a row. just to increase the likelihood that they'll get hits with runners on base, because it's really been it's really killing them this season. And as well as the pitchers have pitched, you don't want to demoralize them by not giving them any support.
Frank, one of the names you mentioned there, Michael Franco, looked like he hurt his ankle yesterday, at least from the television broadcast that we were watching. How much would it hurt if they didn't have him for a game or two, or maybe all three at Wrigley?
Yeah, that would obviously be devastating. Even though he struggled a little bit, I mean, he is the one name in the lineup once you get past Herrera that you really worry about driving the ball. So anytime you would lose somebody like that, it would be devastating, especially when he's your one guy. But it sounds like it's not that serious, and removing him from the game was precautionary, and he should be ready for it tomorrow. But you never know. So hopefully he's feeling okay today after sleeping on it, and he'll be good to go.
Adam Morgan gets the start in Game 1 of this series for the Phillies. So what have you seen from Morgan so far since he's been inserted into the starting rotation?
Yeah, I think what we expected. I think he put forth a couple really nice games, but he kind of pitched like a fifth starter. He had a couple games where he didn't do so well. It's all about him being efficient and really making good use of his pitches. And when he does, you'll see him pitch like he has a couple 7-inning outings with 1 and 2 runs respectively. He's going to give you that now and then, but at the same time, we'll give you his 4-run, 4-inning starts. But I think it's worth the Phillies being patient with him now, getting a really good look. See if he can work past some of those things, like tiring as the game goes on. Give him the opportunity to be more efficient with his pitches, and then they'll know if they'll have something long term, or then with the influx of starting pitching the Phillies have in the minors, you'll get to at least see what Morgan can do before they come along. So it's kind of while it was tough to lose Morton from the stands, that they lost a trade piece potentially. It's good that Morgan's getting a look now, because if he's coming up when all the other big-name young arms are coming up, he might not get this chance. So I think it's important to ride it out, see what he can do.
We know June 1st, Frank, is the day that Cody Asche is eligible to come back. Now, I had kind of talked about yesterday when he comes back, who the odd man out would be and what would his role be. I can kind of see him playing mostly left field, moving Goodell over to right field, and Borges kind of being the guy that's knocked out of the everyday lineup. What do you see happening when Cody Asche's ready to go?
I think, he's got to hit the ball first a little bit more frequently in the minors, I think. He did hit another home run in Reading, so two of his hits are home runs at his rehab. He's only hitting 167. I mean, I'm not there watching him, but, I wouldn't be totally surprised if the Phillies end up optioning him to the minor leagues if they don't think he's really ready. That's just something to consider, because he's got to do better than 167, but at least that he drove the ball a couple times with a couple home runs is a good sign. But yeah, I would think he would sort of end up platooning with Borges, with Goodell going back and forth between left and right. I don't think that Asche will necessarily start every single game, but I definitely think he'll start against the right-handed pitching, which comes more of the time. But yeah, Borges' offensive production, he has his hits now and then that are decent, that help the team. But they obviously, with the lineup so starved for some offense, they'll have to give Asche a shot. But like I said, I haven't seen him play in his rehab assignments, and if they think that he's not ready, I mean, you never know. He might be optioned to the minor leagues when his time's up on June 1st. But we still have a little bit of time, and he'll play a few more days. And who knows, if he shows them that he's ready, then he'll be right up and probably platooning, so to speak, with Borges.
Yeah, now, I remember at spring training, they were giving him some time at first base. We know he used to play some third base. Now, primarily, he has played left field. I don't know that he's ever played right field. He doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of outfield experience to begin with, but do you think he will play some left, some first, some third, and primarily left, or do you think he'll play left and right in terms of, do they want to try to make him a super utility type of guy?
Yeah, I think he's the type that will eventually settle into a Greg Dobbs type role, where he plays a little bit of right field, left field, third base, first base. But he probably won't play much first base this year. I mean, the Phillies will probably carry Ryan Howard. I mean, I really don't think that they'll cut ties with him after coming this far. But at the same time, if there's going to be a left-handed first baseman in the lineup, it'll be Howard. So I would wait and see what happens with Ryan Howard this year, and then maybe next spring training. That's when you really get Cody Asche the time at first base and kind of see where he goes. But I would like to see him play some third base as well, and maybe even dabble in some right field. I mean, he has a third baseman's arm, so one thing you want out of your right fielder is a decent arm, but having somebody like that who can come in a pinch is a valuable thing to have on your roster. So I would like to see him sort of fall into that role the way that the Phillies used Dobbs back in the day.
All right, Frank Klose, 97.3 ESPN.com, part of SportsTalkPhilly.com, where you can see more at Philadelphia.com on the Phillies' three-game set against the Cubs as 2:20 starts all the way through afternoon baseball in Chicago with the Cubs, who are the Majors' best team right now. The pitching matchups for the series, it's Lester and Morgan tomorrow, Hendricks against Eichhoff on Saturday, and Lackey, that's PT, against Velasquez on Sunday. So some decent pitching matchups, even though you don't see their best two. That's why they're the best team in baseball. They've got a pretty deep staff there. Frank, enjoy the baseball this weekend, pal.
Thank you. You too.